Ladies and gentlemen, Zohran Mamdani, the socialist mayor of New York City, is finding out the hard way that he cannot and will not be allowed to run that city the way he thinks it should be run. And this isn't politics as usual. This is a full-blown power clash inside New York's leadership when a sitting governor says she's fed up with her own city's mayor. You know something is broken, and taxpayers are the ones caught in the crossfire. We all saw this coming, and you knew it was going to happen eventually, but let's call it what it is. New York is teetering on the edge of financial breakpoint, and now the cracks are showing up at the very top. Kathy Hochul, who I'm not a fan of at all, has had enough. She's not frustrated. She's not concerned. She's fed up. And that's the word coming out of Albany.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul claims that she is done raising taxes, but a group of unions, left-wing organizations, and Mamdani allies, clearly they didn't get the memo because they are pushing for even bigger tax the rich measures, all to help close that city's massive budget gap. But Hochul says enough is enough, arguing that she's already sending over $1 billion to help bail out the city and that it's now up to them to get spending under control. Here's what Hochul had to say when asked about helping New York City and raising more taxes.
I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to say now, because I'm not negotiating the budget here, what the final project will look like. But I think that is a very significant step toward helping them get to where they need to get to, and they have work to do too.
Say no other new taxes reasonably on the table at this point. Is this
not for me?
And we all know that Hochul didn't get fed up overnight. This is the result of repeated pressure, nonstop proposals, and a growing realization that the system is being pushed too far. New York already has some of the highest taxes in the country: income tax, property tax, and business tax. And at what point does it stop being progressive policy and stop becoming economic punishment? That's the question hanging over the entire situation. But Zohran doesn't see it that way. He wants to raise taxes, and here is what he had to say.
Last week, the mayor stood outside 220 Central Park South.
Today, we're taxing the rich.
To promote a new tax on ultra-luxury second homes.
This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate but who don't actually live there.
Case in point, the penthouse on the 53rd floor,
which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
Griffin lives in Miami, CEO of Citadel, a hedge fund that employs 2,500 people in New York. In a memo to the staff, the chief operating officer wrote, quote, "It is shameful that he used Ken's name as the example of those who supposedly aren't carrying their fair share. Griffin and the staff paid $2.3 billion in city and state taxes, he said, and Griffin himself directed $650 million in charitable gifts to city institutions. That their planned 1,600-foot tower on Park Avenue will create over 20,000 mostly permanent jobs." Then adding, "The project, if we move forward, will entail more than $6 billion of spending."
And the man that Mamdani is talking about is a billionaire CEO and 85% owner of Citadel. He is threatening to pull his offer to invest $6 billion in New York City that would ultimately create thousands of jobs. Griffin was clear when he said, "When did socialism become a way to govern?" But this is what happens when leadership loses focus and the people writing the checks are not paying attention. Ken Griffin isn't just another executive throwing around opinions. He's the founder of Citadel, and he's tied to billions of dollars in investment power. Now he's sending a message that couldn't be clearer. Get your priorities straight or the money walks. We're talking about a potential $6 billion pullout from New York City. And that's not symbolic. That's not political theater. That's jobs, economic activity, and confidence on the line. Here is what Ken Griffin had to say after Mamdani made his little video in front of the tower that Griffin happens to live in.
Hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin is about ready to throw Mamdani into the Hudson, clapping back at the mayor for singling him out and his city penthouse in his pied-à-terre tax crusade.
He went on camera today with some choice words for Zohran before he meets with the Governor Hochul as he reconsiders his company's investments in the city.
The willingness of the mayor of New York to make this a policy debate, a personal attack, just demonstrated a profound lack of judgment, just a profound lack of judgment. Here's the real question. Is New York going to put their fiscal house in order and run itself from a position of a strong government that's pro-business? Or are they looking to play, why do the Americans think we can do socialism? We have none of that in our...
And the powers that be in New York and New York City need to get their heads out of their asses, because it's going to happen. They are going to lose billions of dollars in funding. But this is bigger than just two politicians arguing. This is a clash over governing philosophies. One side, you've got leadership saying, we need to be careful. We can't tax our way out of every problem, which, again, I'm surprised that Kathy Hochul won't raise taxes. But on the other side, you've got to push for more revenue, more programs, more spending, funded by the same taxpayers who are already stretched thin. But the uncomfortable truth is you can't keep demanding more from people who are already looking for the exit. Businesses want to flee, residents want to flee, and the wealthy people and the wealthy businesses in New York City want to leave. Because this isn't about Albany or New York City. This is about what happens when leadership loses touch with economic reality. Because when taxes go up, people need to spend more. Their paychecks don't go up, but they have to keep handing over more and more and more to the cities. That's small businesses, jobs disappear, communities shrink, and the tax base, it erodes. It's nothing but a vicious political cycle that needs to come to an end. And with Hochul seeing it, because obviously I believe she's up for re-election and she wants to stay in charge of New York State, which is a hellhole. But the problem here is they cannot put their heads together and come up with a solution. Socialist Mamdani wants to run that city. He wants the government to be in charge of everything. He wants to give everything away for free. But let's be honest, this kind of public frustration doesn't stay behind closed doors. People have had enough. It signals division, it signals weakest, and it's disagreement at the higher levels. So when leadership isn't aligned, policy becomes chaos. So now's the time for Hochul and Mamdani to sit down with Ken Griffin to figure out how they're going to keep Griffin in the picture to invest $6 billion in that city. Because if he pulls his money, New York, which is already a disaster, is certainly going to fail, and thousands upon thousands of people will lose their income, and then the residents will be running out of there. And what's Mamdani going to do then? Absolutely nothing. He has no platform. He cannot succeed without the help of billionaires like Griffin, and he cannot succeed with the help of Kathy Hochul. I can't believe I'm saying that, but she knows how to govern, apparently, way better than Mamdani will ever. Thanks for tuning in. Please share this video, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Everyone, have a great night.